This is Brother Ron, and welcome to We All Be News Radio and TV, the news-free Dixie for the 21st century. Happy birthday, Just Joe Brown. Happy birthday, Just Joe Brown. Happy birthday, Just Joe Brown. Happy birthday to you. Go Judge Brown, it's your birthday. Go Judge Brown, it's your birthday. Happy birthday to my dear brother, Judge Joe Brown. The verdict is in, and you are America's #1 judge. Thank you for being a friend of the people as well as an advocate for the truth. Wishing you amplified blessings of longevity, good health, real wealth, peace, love, and happiness, and so many vainglorious years of more man-upism. Keep on promoting manhood and protecting womanhood, and know we love you madly. Hey, Judge, how you doing?
All right.
All right, cool. So we'll get to it. So much to talk about. I know this is your birthday weekend, correct?
That's
July 5th?
right.
Yeah, so you got any big plans right now, or you
No,
just...
I don't. Anyway, it's
All
just
right,
one
well,
more day. Right out here, you don't feel like celebrating them, but if you don't have them, that means you're dead. So since I don't want that alternative, I call it an anniversary.
well, excellent. I want to wish you a happy anniversary. I'm glad.
Anniversary of my 21st birthday. All right.
I love it.
That's the way I think of it. Yeah.
Well, happy anniversary. I'm glad that your dad didn't pull out and your mom was pro-life. I'm appreciate it, because we need you right now. So how you been feeling?
Shot a good load. Yeah, all right.
I mean, how you feeling this year? This is a strange year. How you feeling right now overall?
It's inevitable. I thought it was going to come. It did.
Mm-hmm.
It developed strangely. Let's see. We've got COVID-19. Mother Nature has kicked in, and she found a new landscape to exploit. That's humans and the animals they associate with. Let's see what else. Oh, the white folk got a chance to have an accelerated, hyped up spring break. And as usual, they use something black to justify it.
Mm-hmm.
He got a whole lot of confusion. And it's turning out to be quite exciting for some people.
Yeah, I got to ask you about this. Lady Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's girlfriend. What do you think about that? You know, she got caught by the FBI this past week.
Well, I don't know. Let's see what happens. You know, I dealt with these things professionally for a half century, so I know that very typically what you hear in the press has very little to do with what comes out in trial, but this pedophile thing is being spread through the media moguls, through the press, through Black Lives Matter, which is basically affiliated with pedophilia itself. If you take time to read their manifesto, the second to the last paragraph they have in there is lift almost word for word from the NAMBLA manifesto. That's North American Man Boy Association. It talks about leadership decision making by all ages, which is a lift from that thing. What was it? Gay Rights Manifesto of 1972, where they said age should no longer be a factor in sexual consent. That's pedophilia. Some sick puppies. So people are running around yelling, BLM, black football players are going out on a limb talking about Black Lives Matter, which is okay as a concept, but it's an organization founded by some lesbians. Four of them, one of whom has a white wife, black Nigerian female, and they base it or justify it on the loss of black men being killed by police, but yet one of the first things in their mantra is that they want to end male dominance, straight male dominance in family situations, surrender to trans, as they put it, brothers and sisters to lead, which is an anathema to most straight people. They want to put something in there about destruction of the traditional family, which is sickness. And nowhere in their manifesto do they even mention the black men that are the supposed justification for the organization. Black Lives Matter. They don't even mention straight black men anywhere in there. In fact, in several places they attack them or us.
Mm-hmm.
So it really should be something we switch over to a new phrase. BFM, Black Folk Matter, Black Families Matter, Black Fathers Matter, Black Faith Matters, Black Finance Matters, uh, Black Finesse Matters, just BFM. That seems like a good replacement, but I'm not saying BLM anymore. And you got to explain to some other idiots why they would say, why did the, don't all lives matter? And then at one point, before I found out what this sick organization is about, I used to say, Black Lives Matter as much as any.
Mm-hmm.
However, we have a problem, and there is this thing called Act Blue. It's a
Mm-hmm.
front organization for the Democratic Party, and if you donate to if you donate to BLM, your money is going straight through into this Democratic organization known as Act Blue. And if you go on their site, you'll also find that BLM is advising you that some of any contribution you give them goes straight through the LGBTQIA plus, as they put it. And if you go a little further than their manifesto page, they will tell you that they are an affiliated and associated organization with LGBTQIA plus. Now, we've been jumping on them for the last month, and as a result, last week they drastically revamped their website. So if you go on there now, they've got this slideshow with the late Mr. Floyd, and they're trying to pimp his memory to bring you in on a bait and switch thing where you're thinking you're doing something for Black Lives Matter, but when you get in there, you find out it's Black Lesbians Matter.
Mm-hmm.
And the destruction of the family as a goal, pedophile adoption or pedophilia becomes part of their mantra. So it's a sick thing, and people need to be aware of the fact that once again we are being pimped. And you go out there, Pew did a research thing, and they found that only 1 in 6 demonstrators at all of the demonstrations are black. And that's what I told you some weeks ago. I said, this just looks like white kids on spring break. They've been cooped up with COVID-19, so they're having a good ball.
Yeah, they had the cabin fever. I see you right.
Hey, man, like last week, man, we had a good day, man. We was at the Hyatt, man, and we just trashed the 12th floor, man. We just wrecked the place, man. We had a ball, man. I was drunk, man. You should have seen how we tore the place up, man. See, that's what you're getting. And in the interesting thing, there's a video clip going around on Twitter. There is some white kid. He's got on nothing but a green wrap skirt, and he's castigating black cops as Judases and everything else, yelling Black Lives Matter. and he's got tits, for goodness sakes.
Mm.
It's like, okay, you see him
Oh
because he's
man.
got no shirt on. So he's going around yelling BLM and prancing around half naked. So where does, what is this all about?
Well, interest you brought up the Act Blue organization. It kind of remind me how the Kennedy administration hijacked the civil rights movement back in the early '60s. How we was really strong when it was about black first subject matter. Like you look at the Montgomery bus boycott, that was black folks working with each other for 381 straight days to shut down the bus system.
Yeah,
But when we start getting in the white element, it seems like we get distracted or we get confused.
I'm going to give you a secret. You know what
Okay,
it is?
what is it?
You see how white people are co opting the idea that Black Lives Matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're the driving engine, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, all around the world, they aren't talking about black people doing anything. They're talking about the Black Lives Matter movement, the BLM movement,
Mm-hmm.
civil rights movement. In other words, historically, the way the civil rights era is remembered, the civil rights movement is exactly the same. The way this is getting cast right now is Black Lives Matter movement, but there ain't no black people in it.
Mm.
You get it?
Mm-hmm.
See, I know my parents and their friends were acutely embarrassed by the civil rights thing because a lot of them were World War II and Korean War vets, and they just got all angry at all of these colored folk that they used to say ain't one of them been a vet, ain't nothing been shot at, blah, 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 blah. And then down on their knees getting their asses whipped by somebody who is a redneck until some other rednecks felt guilty about watching the colored get their behinds whipped. And one thing I will never forgive the civil rights bunch for is when they decided as a tactic to take these young children out so the children would be subject to being fire hosed and attacked by dogs so that that would generate a public reaction.
Mm-hmm.
You see, I thought that was inexcusable because a real man would never jeopardize a child. You don't do that kind of thing. And John Lewis, for example, was part of that. And it's detestable that he took part in taking children 6, 7 years old, 4, 8, 9 years old, and got them out there so the dogs could get to them and the fire hoses could be turned on them to make a statement and an effect. Hold on a second. Hey
Mm-hmm.
guys, in the back, can you hold down a little bit? I'm being recorded.
Now you talking about like that's what people got to understand. That's Project C Birmingham from 1963. Dr. King and
Mm-hmm.
the SCLC used the kids to send them to jail, but also at the end of the year, you had the 4 little girls get killed in that church bombing,
Yeah, and
and on
see,
2 black boys got killed in the Birmingham in the days after and before.
the interesting thing about that is the South didn't get to see this, but in the North, they got to demonstrating outside of these projects, and they brought the
Mm-hmm.
fire hoses out and the dogs, and the cops had helmets on, but all of these brothers from the hood gathered round to take a look see. And
Mm-hmm.
when the police started putting the dogs up in the crowd, they just took baseball bats, killed a few dogs, threw some of the rest of them out, and beat up some cops. So you guys in the South didn't see that, but we did on the, well, you weren't alive then, I
Yeah.
was, but we saw it on the West Coast, and everybody said, yeah, all right. Because what we were getting, hey man, don't you think that you guys are embarrassing yourselves getting down and getting your ass whipped like that, man? I see we whipped some more of that ass last night, man. I saw it on CBS, man. We really whipped some ass, man. It's like, fool, open your mouth one more time. There'll be another kind of ass whipping up in here right now.
Well, that's why I didn't agree with the Kaepernick kneeling thing. I thought that was very passive, to be honest with you. That was not the correct response. And then you look at the NFL now, they say they're going to play the national black anthem before games. What's your take on that? Is that
What is that?
pandering?
That we shall overcome thing?
Oh, lift every voice and sing, the James
Lift every
Weldon
voice
Johnson.
and thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that we shall overcome thing. Yeah, that's begging. We got to do better than that. You know, everybody else in the world's got a national anthem or a martial anthem for the cause, and the Negro national anthem is begging.
And also it's funny how the protesters, the mindset. They said we need a permit to protest. When do you need a permit to protest?
You need a
Is that
permit.
a
You need
parade
a
at that point?
permit. You need a permit for a demonstration.
Uh huh.
See, they're orderly demonstrations seeking redress of grievances.
Okay.
That's allowed by the Constitution. But if you're trying to protest, there's this thing called civil disobedience. Hell, I
Mm,
did that down at this corrupt kangaroo court they call the juvenile court in Shelby County. A jackass down there who has a nickname Dirty Harry was trying to once again treat a black woman, who in this case was someone in her 50s, with disdain and disrespect. I went off on him. So,
mm.
you know, I
Well,
got 5 days. That's civil disrespect. See, the thing about civil disobedience in a way, and when you get civil disobedience, what you're supposed to be doing is accepting the jail time or what comes. That's a form of protest. But I'll tell you one damn thing. I was an intern with this Washington, D.C. think tank.
mhm,
And one of my assignments was to go through the um, congressional record. And I found it interesting that in the 60,000 pages we went through, there were just maybe four and a half, where they talked about civil rights as a justification for the Voting Rights Act and an amendment to the Civil Rights Act, 67, 68. And they weren't the least bit interested in colored folk down on their knees getting their asses whipped until somebody felt guilty.
mhm,
They were invariably concerned about black people burning down inner cities and cities all across America. That's what they were under. That's what they were interested in. And so you can look at who the heroes are. We weren't paying any attention to Martin Luther King, anybody 25 and under. We were looking at H. Rap Brown. Stokely Carmichael was cool, but he was too damn intellectual, and he had all these complex formula that somebody in the bush was supposed to memorize to get free, which was, oh man, come on. And we had Huey Newton and Eldridge Cleaver and that bunch, but we weren't interested in King. King was passe. If they hadn't murdered him, he would have been a footnote.
it is interesting because people will assume, like, the way they tell the history, the revision, that all these folks were behind King, especially black people, but that wasn't the
We
case.
weren't. See, the
Mm,
bottom line is what we were doing, unlike what's going on right now,
mm,
was you guys think you're better than King? Well, we aren't King. Well, King is great. Yeah, well, you say so. Well, what distinguishes you from King? Well, we're not nonviolent. Hmm.
mm.
We will kick some ass.
You know what? And
See?
it's the 4th of July, and this country would not want its independence without black soldiers and spies kicking ass in the Revolutionary War.
Oh,
James Bernard Lafayette.
we have equity. That's why I don't buy into this stuff about moving back to Africa. Like,
Hmm.
okay, Africa gets no respect, so the African wants to move to the United States to take advantage of the opportunity. So why the hell do you want to go back to Africa, where the people over there want to leave so you can do subsistence farming? You see, somebody's going to have to get the African worldwide some pride and respect. And the only way you get that in this world is to be able to stand and deliver,
Mm,
kick ass when necessary. You may not have the best army, but what you do is, if you have the persistence, you can outlast the others. That's one thing the United States has found out since World War II. We don't do well when an indigenous people says go to hell and they won't back down and they won't surrender. We can beat the formal army. There's no army in the world can stand up to the U.S. military. I guess that's a good thing to say on the 4th. But when it gets down to the people themselves saying, hell no, we're not going to go that way, there's nothing that the U.S. government has found itself able to do. And it's not surprising since in historical reality, the first successful modern revolution was 1776, etc.
Now I was thinking about what you said about I think about Ho Chi Minh. He actually was a fan of America. I mean, he was a fan of the Declaration of Independence. He actually he tried to meet with Woodrow Wilson back in 1919 in Paris. We could have
Mm-hmm.
avoided Vietnam decades later if Woodrow Wilson met with this guy.
Well, see,
But Woodrow Wilson, a Democrat.
Woodrow Wilson was a racist dog from the University of Virginia. He was a professor. And he talked about League of Nations and rights of humanity and was one of the worst racists that has ever sat in the White House.
And a
He
Democrat.
wasn't a slave owner. He was a Democrat, but he's the one that segregated Washington, D.C. on his own executive order.
Right.
At the time he got in office, the United States Navy was not segregated. He issued the executive order to segregate the United States Navy. And the Army had always been segregated, but he made it absolute. He also required that quite a number of black troops in the 9th Cavalry be executed because of a mutiny that they had based on the treatment they were receiving at the hands of the Texas Rangers down in Texas.
I know at Houston, right, back in 1917. Yep.
Yeah, well, this is a little known fact. More Buffalo soldiers got killed by the Texas Rangers than they did by Native Americans.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting
And you did a
statistic.
documentary. You did a great documentary on the Buffalo Soldier. You was a narrator.
Yeah,
That
I
was a
did
great
that.
job. That's available on YouTube.
Interestingly enough, what happened is what you saw were the leftovers. That was not the cut. And what happened is the cut got destroyed.
Wow.
It was edited, sent out for copying to go out in the distribution, and it got destroyed for some reason. So what you saw was what was on the cutting room floor, so to speak, that had been edited out.
That's crazy. But you know what? The United States owes a debt to the Buffalo Soldier, to black soldiers. We fought 5,000 strong in the Revolutionary War. We fought in every war for the Republic. But a lot of our soldiers come home getting lynched. I mean, you know, Thurgood
Well,
Marshall's mentor almost got lynched overseas when he was serving in
well,
World War One. Charles Hamilton Houston.
traditionally, the first person whose death is attributed to the revolution is Crispus Attucks.
Right.
He was a stevedore in Boston, and he's supposedly the first American that got killed in the Revolutionary War. So we have our equity in this system, and today is a good day, the 4th of July, to remind ourselves of that.
Yeah, I know.
This is where we were born. This is home. We don't have to like it, but then again, you know, some of the worst fights I've ever seen are up inside families or in offices or in corporations or in organizations. So we live here. We've paid our dues. We've got our equity. We just need to get the right kind of attitude, because being free is up here. It's like if you take a dog and you take the collar off of a dog, what do you have? A dog. You get a slave and you take the collar off of a slave, unless he thinks like a free man, you still have a slave. So we have to start thinking like free people, and the 4th of July is a good time to remind black people that they need to think like that.
Yeah, also,
another thing too, there are fireworks on the 4th.
Yeah.
So that ought to be a reminder to black people that they need to get more bang and less damn bling. No bling, get bang. Don't buy bling, buy bang. Buy bang, not bling. You can remember that. That's simple enough. I know we don't like to read and we like to have it told to us. That's even a 15-second or 5-second sound bite. Buy bang, not bling.
You know what? I'm glad you said that because right now this also marks the 103rd anniversary of the East St. Louis race massacre, where them white folks killed all them black people and threw them in the river, burned them up in buildings, raping and pillaging and stuff like that over in the East St. Louis, all because black folks wanted to work at a factory that they recruited folks from down south. Majority of the black folks who were victimized in East St. Louis were from Mississippi, but they crossed that union line, whatever. But people don't understand that labor unions in this country were formed to keep the most skilled working class from having employment, which was black folks after the Civil War. The most skilled class of laborers
Well, yeah,
denied
that's
labor because of
everywhere.
unions.
It's everywhere. Oh, like for example, in Tennessee, in most of these cities or townships or municipalities in Tennessee, you can see old railroad structures. Even
Mm-hmm.
here in Memphis, black masons built those railroad structures here and in Nashville. But they were compelled with this unionization movement to take in whites and teach them the trades, and then they got thrown out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, unions have their purpose, one of which is to educate their members on what's going on politically. See,
Right.
good unions would have meetings once a month that were mandatory. Everybody would come and you'd get lectures on what's going on politically and what it's really all about. And then the union members would tell their families and then their neighbors and brothers and sisters and parents and associates, and the word would get out. We don't have that now, and all we have is these clowns representing the queer side on CNN, MSNBC, CBS, and everything. And we've got to start thinking of things again. They can call us the N word, tell us we're full of it, and say all kinds of negative things about us, Trump, Biden, Pelosi, and all of the rest of the bunch. But you
Mm-hmm.
can't talk about them because you'll be banned from Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. And we've got all of these businesses that have withdrawn their commercial support for Facebook because Facebook isn't clamping down enough on speech that makes some clowns feel healthy. Well, a sissy's a sissy, and we need to start saying sissy some more in reference to a sissy. The other thing is their own site that LGBTQ in it, that stands for two things: questioning and queer. And if you
Mm-hmm.
look at BLM, what do they say? This is a queer affirming organization. So let's start by using the word queer a little bit more
But
to
they
get
said,
us
yeah.
back into the frame mindset of not being so fearful of calling, a sow, a pig's
Yeah.
a pig.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, that's what we're looking at right now. Read the book Animal Farm. And if you can't read, you can go online, Google it, and they can give you some cartoon or animated editions of Animal Farm. And the
Yeah, we
crucial
in an
thing in
idiocracy
there,
right now. We are
yeah,
definitely in an idiocracy.
yeah, the things in there. See, all animals are equal, but pigs are more equal than other animals.
Mm.
So what happens with that is all people in the U.S. are equal, except the gays are more equal than others. And by the way, a nice legal attack has been opened up, but people don't even think this way.
Okay.
Is how did they defeat what gains blacks had gotten starting in the early 1970s? They came up with this concept of reverse discrimination
Mm.
to get rid of affirmative action. So what that was is if you discriminate against somebody else to correct things for another group, that's also wrong, and two wrongs don't make a right. So if everybody else has got to suffer for the gay folk, then that becomes reverse discrimination, and
Hmm.
it needs to be ended. It's a legal theory, but nobody's even thinking about it. Nobody has mentioned it.
Well, you just planting the seeds on this show today, Judge, and like you did the BLM website, you made them change some things around by you putting it out in the atmosphere and it
Yeah,
manifesting.
yeah. BLM really stands for Black Lesbians Matter. That's
Yeah.
all it is. It has nothing to do with black folk, except if all black folk are supposed to be represented by black lesbians who want to destroy the traditional family, become a queer affirming network to promote pedophilia, depredations of our children, who want to deal with destroying black masculinity. They talk about the suppression of the cisgendered, which means in code straight black men.
Mm-hmm.
So why are we supporting BLM? It's just out of ignorance. If you're going to support somebody, for God's sake, if they publish their manifesto, read the damn thing. But you see,
It,
you can't get us to read.
and
It's interesting.
that
We see,
cisgender thing makes heterosexuality sound like a disease or something, like a cancer.
yes, it does.
It's so weird.
And BLM considers straight black men to be a disease. In fact, it actually says in there, cisgendered, etc., must be suppressed. So
Is that
they're
discrimination
relying
though?
upon,
Like you said, reverse discrimination right there.
yeah. So in other words, they're coming in and they are attempting to exploit outrage to commit further outrages upon the people that they're using to bring everybody in. It's a bait and switch. Black men get jacked up, so we want you to fund this organization so we can jack black men up more.
You
See,
know,
that's what it amounts to.
it's crazy to think about what they're doing. Like it's hetero blacks. I want to ask you, yeah, but it's like it's hetero black males being killed, by the police for the most part. But they make this about sexuality and gender identity.
Yeah, see, they are parasites. They will
Okay.
parasitize any damn thing they can wiggle into and try to take advantage of it for their own selfish purposes. See, they're selfish. They don't find themselves in the reproductive loop that Mother Nature has set up, so they want to destroy it. They want to steal children because they're not into reproduction, or if they are, they slip, they're hypocritical. What happens is you've got lesbians who hate men, but they've got a 50-50 chance of having a boy. So I
Hmm.
don't think it's appropriate for someone to be a parent where on the front end they're going to hate one half of the offspring they're likely to have. And then you can see these disgusting freaks like Charlize Theron,
You read
who
my
has
mind,
taken
man.
that boy. What? How do you pronounce it? Theron or whatever the hell that
Yeah,
is.
I was thinking about her today. Go ahead,
That South
Judge.
freak who has got that black boy, and instead of helping to raise him to be a man, she's dressing him in girls' skirts and panties and crap, and got earrings, toenail polish on, and having him wear dresses half the time. See, that's what's going on. They want to destroy black manhood. And I've said this often, the status of a race is not determined by their women, it's determined by the status of their men.
She her justification is she don't want him to be afraid of being a black male. Like she trying to protect him from being a man in a world that don't value black hetero males. That's her
Goddamn
justification.
that queer ass bitch. You need to provoke
Why?
send
Why? Where's Child
back
Protective Services, Judge?
out
Why they not taking the kids away from her? Why is she allowed to raise kids like that? Why people think that's normal?
because they see this is something people need to understand. Every survey, every study done is consistent for the last 50 years,
Hmm.
100 years actually.
Okay.
Only 6% of the population is into that. But the way they portray it, you'd think at least half are.
Yeah.
And they're insulting and insidious about what they do. Aunt Jemima has left the pancake company. Uncle Ben's left the rice company.
Hmm.
But they've moved over to doing commercials for Popeye's Fried Chicken, which is a Canadian country company. They
Mm.
got that I'm experiencing some things. Aunt Jemima heifer sitting up in the front seat of a car with her fat behind, throwing down on a piece of dead chicken that's over fried in some rancid grease. And
Mm.
then they got Uncle Ben. Look at you with your fine self up in here with another chicken sandwich. See, I look down on people like that because you're supposed to have enough personal integrity to tell somebody you go to hell. There's no way you're gonna get me to do something like that.
You know what? It's funny you talk about you basically predicted the gay agenda in Hollywood. You know, you basically was a prophet on that because I know it's a popular show called The Shy on Showtime, and one of the lead actors allegedly quit because he didn't want to be in a relationship with a transgender on the show. Like, you know, he was one of the lead actors. He said, to hell with it. And I hope he could find some more employment somewhere. But he said no. And, you know, the lady who created that show, Lena Waithe, she's definitely a lesbian. She created that psyop movie called Queen and Slim from last year. And you look at what's going on in the country now with police thing with black people. And that movie came out last fall,
Well,
kind of
that's right.
programming.
I predicted this, and what I also said last year, I said, Brother Ron, what we have here is a case of not listening to BB King's thing, where he said, "Never make your move too soon."
Mm,
And these folk have run, you know, jogged a 5 mile run for some charity, and they're within 100 yards of the finish line, they think, so they're trying to sprint there. But now, as I said before, it's going to provoke a backlash when people start looking at what they are actually doing.
mm-hmm,
And the weaknesses they have that the people should be aware of is one, this thing they do with the trannies. The tranny started with this sick puppy, Michael Jackson, who mutilated himself, cut his balls off before he was 12,
mm,
and had so many surgeries on his nose and his face, screwed himself up from looking like a black man to some kind of freak out of a Japanese anime movie with artificial chin, cheekbones, hair, Polynesian hair from who knows where, woven inside out of his scalp. They had to peel it back every 9 months to do that. He had so many operations on his nose,
mm,
it got necrotic and gangrene was setting in, and they had to amputate it. And he's walking around with a prosthesis on. You can see the tape on each side when he gets to sweating on those last few videos.
mm,
And he was androgynous, see. And the androgyny thing that is continued on with this push for trannies, talking to children and reading to them and stuff. What it is we have a sanction against them because they are homosexual. Now, if you change the paradigm so there are not two sexes, but there's just one, then being homosexual is not a slur the way they look at it.
mm,
So they have a concerted campaign to confuse sexuality in the public. At one point, 50 years ago, gender and sex were identical. Now they have seized on the word gender since very few people are sophisticated enough to use it instead of sex, and they have corrupted it. So now some pissant magazine, uh, Oxford or whatever dictionary wants to define 56 some genders, which is just opportunistic bullshit. You know,
mm,
there's only two, male and female, and there's only two sexes, male and female. And Mother Nature, for 3.8 going on 4 billion years, has been working on that. So all higher order animals and birds, they have this sexual attraction. It may be on olfactory basis, where the animals can smell the difference
mm,
between the genders and sexes. It may be visual, that's us, or it may be auditory sounds, the bass in the voice. and humans work on the auditory and the visual. So we don't walk around naked much anymore, except maybe on a beach or
Mm.
down at Hito or something in Jamaica. So, as a cultural adaptation to that, clothes are supposed to match what's underneath. So now we have trannies going around confusing that. These are sick puppies with uh, a clothes fetish, and they're confusing it. So nowadays, people will tell you at a bar, man, is that a man or a woman over there? You know,
Yeah, I
and
have no moments.
white people now are saying, man, uh, it looks fine, but I'm not so sure that's not a man. Why? Because they've taken our beauty standards for women and they're saying that's objectification. So they got some fat 330-pound slob that needs to be in the gym desperately, and they're talking about her inner beauty like, well, yeah, but she doesn't even have a good attitude.
There you go.
So, it's like, well, it's not fair. I said, well, look at men. Every man doesn't look like Adonis, and he's not built like Shaq or
Oh, Terry Crews.
Terry Crews. We just live with it.
Yeah,
Why any different? Otherwise, we'd all be looking like chimpanzees instead of what we look like now.
right.
So, you know, it is what it is.
Yep.
Humanity is an interesting mix. If you are a successful man, you breed upward by getting a beautiful woman. If you're a beautiful woman, you get to breed upward by matching up with a smart, resourceful man
Right.
who sometimes has athletic prowess. And it's interesting seeing a lot of rich people when you go. The women are all 6 feet tall and look like movie stars, and the guys are all 6 feet 5 and look like they could be playing in the NFL or in the NBA.
Mhm.
It's kind of like, okay, it's an interesting phenomenon. So we want to look at what is going on in the world today, at least in our immediate world here in the United States. And we've got people trying to tell us to get rid of the masculine component and uglify the female component. So it's kind of crazy.
It's ins-
Whole thing about fluid gender is some garbage. And one of the reasons they want to have these trannies talk to these children is the same reason your mama told you, boy, if you don't go to church on Sunday, you can't go nowhere else the rest of the week. They
right.
want to get you in there and condition you before you got a chance to think about it. So that trans thing is now being hooked up appropriately with the pedophile thing in the public mind, or at least in a significant number of the public, so that the word spreads. And the next thing that's going to kill them, besides this pedo tranny hookup, is women has fought a long time to get an equal share of sports opportunities. And
Hmm.
now you got a problem. Last year down in Texas, when they had the high school state finals for track, for the women's events, for the 100 meters, 200 meters, 400, 400 relay, 1600 meters, broad jump, high jump, pole vault, discus throw, shot put, javelin throw. The top 5 places were all run by boys who said they felt like they were girls, which is BS.
That's insanity. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna go along with the
That
with the program, Judge.
contact sports, which I think is kind of an anathema any damn way. Women have to breed, and they got some delicate body parts that they don't need to be risking going around beating on each other. But be that as it may, uh, we used to have this thing: boys should never hit girls because they're stronger. But
Hmm.
now boys can hit girls if they just claim, "Oh, I feel like a girl," some crap sick mind and go fight girls in full contact sports. Seeing a lot of these girls are getting broken bones, broken jaw, skull fractured, broken ribs, arms, legs, and being put into comas. So that's going to backfire. And I hope soon so these girls don't have to go through these
Well,
challenges.
it's just it's the inmates run the insane asylum as far as I'm concerned, because a trans woman is not a natural biological woman. It's like me saying I'm a trans billionaire, but I'm not a real billionaire. You know what I'm saying?
Let's defeat what they have done propagandistically. A
Mhm.
tranny who's trying to be a woman is not a woman. So why put the label trans woman in there? It ain't a woman.
Right.
But you've seen this sickness now where they've perfected the technique in Brazil. They want to transplant wombs from dead women into trannies so they can go through the experience of having birth, giving birth, and they're claiming it as a right.
Well,
That is ultimate sickness.
well, a lot of them Nazis went down to South America. They doing Joseph Mengele and all them guys.
Yeah,
So it's like some Frankenstein stuff going on.
a lot of for a long time, way up into the '60s. If you saw the Argentine army marching,
Hmm.
they looked just like the Wehrmacht in World War II.
There
They
you
had
go.
Fallheims, the jack boots, and the uniforms, and
Hmm.
carried Mausers.
There you go. It's a sick mind, man. Like and then people tell me, what about these black trans women getting killed by black men? I guess you fooling people. If I'm expecting a woman, a natural woman, and you come out with this something bigger than mine, I don't
Well,
know.
let me explain how that works.
Hmm.
I had a number of murder trials in front of me where somebody was accused of killing a tranny.
Hmm.
All right.
Hmm.
What happened was is they went to trial on the defense of temporary insanity.
Yeah.
They all walked.
It was a guy down in Biloxi, I think Mississippi, a brother, young guy in the Navy. He lost his virginity to a trans woman. He didn't know she was a trans, or it was a trans.
Yeah, I'm signaling to somebody. Some people came through. So
Oh
anyway,
yeah, y'all
uh,
practicing social distancing and all that stuff again.
well, yeah. Um,
You heard about that case just down in Mississippi? A young guy, I think he was a Navy guy, and he lost his virginity to a trans woman. He didn't know the person was a trans until afterwards, and he just killed the person. And
well,
I guess temporary insanity.
see, in other words, for 3.8 going on 4 billion years, Mother Nature has been putting this in.
Hmm.
Males get attracted to females, females get attracted to males, and it's on the basis of either visual, plumage, body size, or whatever, auditory. Does it bellow, roar, have a song, deeper voice, or olfactory, smell?
Hmm.
See, humans don't rely on smell too much, but even there, you men and women smell differently. The pheromones are
Yeah, you
different.
read my mind. Yeah, I
Yeah,
met some women like wow. Hmm.
there are a whole lot of things in there.
Yes,
So,
sir.
as I said just a few minutes ago, we don't walk around naked. So, the clothes by cultural compact are supposed to match what's underneath them. So here is this guy who is responding to a 3.8 billion year old imperative to what he thinks is a female, and he gets someplace and finds out it's something else. He goes temporarily insane, and there's a murder.
Yeah, I know. It's just they so slick with it. And also, I got to ask you about this because you a man's man. What do you think about this idea, this narrative in the black community or so-called black community that the black men are the white man of the black community of the black race?
It's bullshit. The
Hmm.
status of a race is determined by the status of its men, not its women.
Hmm.
If you can break it down, if the conquerors come in and they've killed off all the men, they saved the women for slaves, concubines, and sexual pleasure. And
Mhm.
in 3 generations, the descendants of the raped, in absorbed females of the conquered become part of the big scheme, and their great grandsons can fit on in and maybe become part of the ruling caste or class. So that's what you do with females. In other words, they're just another sex object for the conquerors or the oppressors. For males, you don't conquer and oppress if the males have status. So one of the problems that we need to face and to be candid about it is the fact that the black woman has been initiated into this process of keeping the black male subjugated, suppressed, and not made whole. See, it takes a
Mhm.
man and a woman to raise a daughter. It takes a man and a woman to raise a son. Now, there are exceptions because the whole village gets involved in the process.
Mhm.
Nowadays, the village is trying to corrupt the process. The village is mass media.
Mhm.
And we've got the mass media trying to wreck that. So the boys don't have a damn chance, and the girls don't either. Uh, I counsel a lot of young men between 30 and say 40. And one
Mhm.
of the problems they're having that they tell me is, Judge, I was dating this beautiful woman, blah, 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 blah. And then she turned to me one day and said, I'm a lesbian. Like, what the hell? She wanted me to meet her girlfriend. So I said, well, maybe you can get an interesting threesome out of it if
Yeah.
you.
Yes, sir.
you
You know what I noticed too? A lot of
know,
women. uh but just also I know a lot of women like the baby boy type of mentality. Like a lot of these brothers, when they women get mad at them, they get their stuff thrown out in the streets because they're not even going half on the rent or the mortgage or nothing like that. They
baby,
depending on the woman, the rate. I mean, these like older guys in their
baby
40s and 50s.
by John Singleton is an interesting movie. And when his mama takes up with a character played by Ben Reams,
Yeah.
Mom, what are you doing in our house? She says, what the hell do you mean? Our house. You don't pay any damn rent around here. And every number he has his girlfriend and he's driving her car. Uh, what about our car? What do you mean, our car? You ain't done anything, fool. I'm paying the notes. You just put all the money on some rims on my car.
Mm.
And then see the ultimate expression of the whole thing. A friend of mine and I were traveling on some business, and we were in the lounge in the Detroit airport.
Hmm.
And this has been maybe 15 years ago. And he and I both turned. He says, man, you see this article in Ebony magazine by this black female PhD talking about get you a thug? And what the article said was how exciting thugs are. But the crucial thing for the women to remember is they're paying the tab so they can control it. So they just
Mm.
get the raw excitement, but there's no real masculinity because they can just cut the check off,
Mm.
you know. So fake all the way around. And, we've forgotten so quickly that just a few years ago, you went to any major city, they'd have something like, "This is Bobby on WFOOL.
Hmm.
This is uh your thug week. We got Tamika online. Tamika, you got a thug? Yeah, Bobby, I got me a thug. He fine. Blah 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 blah. He look like Denzel. All my friend girls, they gay. All right, Tamika, we got Sherelle on the phone. Sherelle, you got you a thug? Yeah, Bobby, I got me a thug. You let him work, Shrill? No, Bobby, I want him nice and fresh when I get home from the job, so he can keep my morale high. Okay, we got another caller. This Lucille. Oh, hey Lucille, what's going on? Uh, well, I'm white, but I likes me some thug too. They so excited.
Yeah.
And so you have this foolishness going around. Like another thing, at one time, one of the most despicable categories of human,
Mm-hmm.
one of the lowest on the totem pole, the person that everybody fucked in the penitentiary more so than any other category except pedophiles was the pimp. And now,
Mm.
yeah, man, it's pimping, man, all about pimping, man. Pimp your ride, man. Pimp your life, man. See, in other words, exploitation. Uh, 25 years ago, out of some characters on the witness stand, I'm sentencing him. He's asking for probation. Excuse me, how do you support yourself? Well, yo, Judge, like I got four ladies take care of me. I got two of them got good jobs. One get a crazy check. One get AFDC. They takes care of me. They gives me everything I need. So, what's that make you, gigolo or simp? What's the simp? That's when you beg for this. So, what do? Well, like I said, I smooth the ladies out. What do you do? In other words, you are a parasite. You are a useless drone. Maybe that's why you're up in this criminal court, because
Mm.
you have no damn utility. You're just useless. So I would say I will convert you into being a man with utility.
Wow. Yeah, it's like a lot of women do got male traits now, like in particular black women. They're
They
very aggressive.
it's pushed on them, and
Mm-hmm.
they're happy with it. Run around sad, 400 pounds overweight, $400 nail jobs, and 15 pounds of weave added to the 300 pounds of weight. Oh, and it's rainbow
Man.
colors, which, might be subconscious. It doesn't look good. They would be much better off, much healthier if they'd go to a gym and stop having all these babies with no husband.
Yeah. So is Planned Parenthood, is that a good thing? 'Cause I know, we got an interesting history as black people, especially with our leadership being involved in Planned Parenthood.
Well, the bottom line on that one is women have a right to control their bodies. I'm not going to get in that. And too
Mm-hmm.
much of this is another problem that black folk have to be aware of. They have, to a great extent, subsumed and absorbed the far right religious thing.
Okay. I would, well, it's interesting. I was speaking of religion. I mean, I look at the voting thing. Is voting still that important in 2020 for black people? Is it still
Yes,
relevant to vote
on the local level.
at the local level? Okay, tell us, explain, please.
It's not so much a problem of police brutality.
Mm-hmm.
It is no proper influence in the mayor's office, since the mayor can control the police. It's not so much a problem of police brutality, since the prosecutors, the DA's office, or the state's attorney can determine who gets prosecuted
Mm-hmm.
and make certain law enforcement efforts relevant or irrelevant, but we don't vote for DAs. All of this could be broken up if the judges would apply the law fairly, but the judges don't apply the law because the wrong ones are sitting on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
And black people, you know how it is in Memphis, which is a microcosm. We
Yeah.
walk up to the polling place and we get handed a ballot by this, that, and the other shyster with names
Mm-hmm.
on it and some few pictures, and we don't know who the hell's who.
That's
And we
right.
that ballot because we know who the person is that seemingly put the ballot out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like we had a guy around here named Joe McCarthy, uh, McCarty, and Joe McCarty was a criminal court judge, Division 8, and he got replaced by another judge who was just like him.
Okay.
Joe McCarty kept getting the black bloc vote, but Joe McCarty had been the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan around here, and he had been chairman of the White Citizens Council.
He a Democrat,
Yes,
like
uh,
Biden, huh?
and his replacement was a character named Chris Kraft, who I have to say was one of the dumbest scoundrels I've ever run into. Even
Hmm.
his white colleagues would talk about how unintelligent he was. I mean, he was
Wow.
a bad racist, and he kept getting the black bloc vote because he'd pay these folk off who put these ballots out, and they would put his name on the ballot, and he'd get in. Like Shelby County, right now, we have fewer black judges than we had 25 years ago. And we've got some racist. You've got Glenn Wright, Carolyn Blackett, and there's a new sister. I don't know her. I never saw her practice. She's after my time.
Hmm.
I won't mention the other black person down there because he's a career prosecutor and he just hates being black. But Glenn Wright's an okay guy. Carolyn Blackett had no background in criminal law, but she's trying. But the other 8 judges, or 7 out of the 10 total, most of them were just outright racist. And they've got one lesbian down there that tried to go off on Henry Brooks,
Hmm.
called her a racist in reverse for pushing black causes, and the state Supreme Court removed her from Henry Brooks's case. You remember all that crap they
What
had
about
about that?
the parking situation?
Yeah, well, the parking situation wasn't what they got her on. It was
Right.
because supposedly gave a false address listing her boyfriend's address, who was a chicken shit little punk.
Hmm.
Uh, and she got prosecuted, and she entered a plea of guilty, and she was applying for diversion. Well, she qualified for diversion, but Paula Skane, the lesbian in there,
Hmm.
denied. So it went up to the state Supreme Court. They removed Paula Skane from the case, and Henry Brooks got diversion. Now, this beautiful sister in her 60s, who has done so much for the black community,
Yeah.
if left to Skane, would not have been able to vote again in life.
Hmm.
They had this woman who has been the epitome of doing the right thing. They had her on intensive supervised probation. Every week she's got to go in and go through the numbers, which was ridiculous.
So she lost her
Oh,
right to vote. You saying she lost that
she
privilege
lost the right to vote. But
as
now,
a public servant,
yeah,
elected official? Wow.
yeah. See, so we don't pay any attention. But the bad thing about it is in the city of Memphis, only 19.1% of the registered voters are white.
But yeah, who's controlling everything? Who's
Yeah. And
the
corrupted election machines. So you got a Tammy Sawyer here, who is a lesbian, fat one, in her early 30s, admitted it. And she says,
she admitted she was a
yeah,
lesbian now?
uh,
Oh, okay. She got
and
in trouble with them tweets back in the
corrupted.
day.
Yeah, and she's already said for the November elections, people get it out of their heads. These machines are not going to be replaced. All it takes to replace them is a simple majority resolution to say we hereby resolve that the debold election machine should be replaced.
I thought she
And
was a for the people though. I thought she was like grassroots and
oh hell no,
fight the power
she's
that be.
he's pushing that LGBTQ queer shit.
Okay.
And see, that's why Shelby County politics looks so strange. The queers have taken it over. Like I called out the uh, DA, Amy Wyrick, on it. She's a lesbian and she's got an inappropriate relationship with her personal secretary. You're not supposed to be having a sexual relationship with somebody that works for you, but she
Mm.
does. And if anybody should have been prosecuted for giving a false address, it was her. The only address she has in Shelby County, in fact, in Tennessee, is not hers. It belongs to her girlfriend, and it's just some little hidey hole they have. and she claims she's still married to her husband and they're still together. But guess what? He lives in Mississippi. So why do we have a Mississippi resident as DA of Shelby County?
That's crazy. If
See, but Henry Brooks gets stripped of voting rights because guess what? She gave the wrong address according to the prosecution, but it's still in Shelby County and she was running for a county-wide office. So, under some decisions by the Chancery Court here, where we had a black chancellor, Walter Evans, that's okay.
and she had this reputation for not allegedly processing rape kits. That's true. Amy Wyrick.
Right now, they got 27,000 unprocessed rape kits because she protects people. You remember this Nora Jackson that the woman got convicted of killing her own mama, that the state Supreme Court set the conviction aside. Well, what happened is there were some black criminal investigators, females, and they would get upset that somebody who was on Wyrick's staff was calling them the N words, and she told them either shut the hell up or walk. So they wouldn't shut up, and she fired. But they saved some tapes and evidence, and they sent it to the state Supreme Court. And amongst other things, they got a test kit done on their own that she refused to send over. And it showed that this white United Methodist preacher from Jackson, Tennessee, had sex with the dead woman within an hour of her death, and his DNA and prints are all over the place.
Wow.
So he was protecting him because he's a family friend.
Wow. That's insane. I mean, like this is like a movie or something, like movie of the week.
Well, it is, but we have to start thinking in terms of get over this conditioning they put in our heads. They can call us the N word. We can certainly call them the queer word.
Yeah, tick for tat. But also, I want to ask you about this Cosby thing, which never should have happened. It never should have happened, which is insane. But what's your take on the appeal? And what's going to happen next? You think?
I'm really, as a retired judge, I don't like this because one, that judge lost control of the trial, or else was complicit in that mob thing that was going on.
Right.
And B, he took almost 4 times the amount of time he was allotted under the statute to come up with his conclusions for the appeal. So Cosby got a year and a half added to the time he might otherwise not have had to spend in jail because of the trial judge. Now, the big problem with that is the Fifth Amendment one. When this thing initially started, Cosby's civil lawyer said, look, he does not need to be required to respond to these interrogatories and deposition requests because there's a Fifth Amendment liability. The civil trial judge said, agreed, he doesn't have to respond. The DA's office, through the elected DA at the time, said, we're not going to go on this. We're not going to prosecute him. We grant him immunity.
Right.
So Cosby was ordered by the civil court to give the deposition, which he did. Then the new DA comes in and says, oh, we got what we need now to prosecute him. We revoked that agreement, so now we're going to go forward. See, it's the office that does it, not the person. And once you get somebody to rely on that, you can't turn around and say, we're going to change our minds after you relied on it.
But you know what?
And that's prosecution.
But you know what, Cosby, I think his mistake, I ain't gonna say his mistake, but this is understanding how to play the game. He should have made sure that DA stayed in office. He should have donated to the campaign, did whatever he could to make sure that DA stayed in office.
Because black people have to vote. Black people don't pay attention to the DAs. They just get the handout ballots and vote accordingly.
I'm talking about Cosby. Like you look at the gangsters.
Cosby, see, it's not that easy to control an election.
Mm-hmm. Well, I ain't talking about, I'm just talking about, like, you look at the mob, right? You look at Frank Costello and all them guys.
Hired, see.
Say that part again.
And a new one came in campaigning on the issue.
I thought he was running. The DA, the former DA was still running. He was running too for re-election.
Well, he may have, but he lost.
Yeah, but what I'm saying was, Judge, what I'm saying, like, you look at the gangsters.
you're saying, but Cosby is a
Mm-hmm.
realistic point. People have to understand it. See, black people in the modern American public,
Mm-hmm.
they have these boogeyman Soros who are somehow or another strong man,
Right.
magician types. They can control every damn thing. They can't because essentially they're only one vote. So the bottom line is how many votes can they directly buy? They can influence media, but it's still one man, one vote in a ballot booth.
Yeah, well, I was talking about. I'm like the vote. I understand that, but I look at what the mob does. Where you got felons running the organization, they insulate themselves by paying off the right people, like
It,
law enforcement, judges.
you can't do that
You can't do
because
that.
no, you can't do that now. Not that way. The only way you do that is through churches.
Okay,
But
faith-based initiative.
Cosby has no in into that type of church that the
Mm,
DA go to. You
right.
see, like in Shelby County and in Memphis, a lot of people that are on the county commission and in the city council are on deacon boards. So on
Mm,
pastor, a
okay.
priest day, there's a large anonymous envelope addressed to this deacon or another or trustee with his cash bribe for voting as he voted for a zoning variance.
Okay. It's like the mob with the Vatican. I see what you say. You got to go be. I mean, we gotta, but we like these gangster movies. Why we can't pick up on that type of stuff? Like, why we
We
can't do that as
have
black people?
we don't look at the right things.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, look how popular Black Panther was without anybody realizing what they were actually supporting. Every
Yeah,
negative thing about black men was in that movie.
that's so true. Judge, you
Every
right on the money with that too.
every negative bad thing about black society was in that movie.
Yeah.
They had the villain spouting King, Newton, uh,
Ma-
W.E.B. Du Bois, Frederick Douglass,
Malcolm,
Marcus
everybody.
Harvey. They had the villain talking the good stuff. See, so they're trying to get the good stuff associated with villainy. The
Right.
big battle scene was the women of the tribe in lethal combat with the men of the tribe.
Yep.
They brought in outside help, but this is Africa. But where did those guys live? They lived in the mountains in some caves with perpetual snow on the ground. In other words, the inference of they're cavemen.
Right.
What did you get in this?
Hmm.
And then Marvel itself, you have to take the overall picture, has promised to make 50% of their characters gay or trannies or lesbians. And they're doing it. They even got a wedding they're planning with some of the comic stuff rather than the movies. Thor in the comic book, for goodness sakes, is a woman now.
That's a man. I don't know. Hey, I'll ask you before you go, Judge. You see that series with the Watchmen on HBO with Regina King? Have you watched that anytime?
No.
I would love to get your take on that because it was some disturbing things in that. I mean, people talk about how it did a good job of talking about Black Wall Street, the Tulsa, Oklahoma bomb in 21, but how they portray black male roles is very disturbing.
Yeah. Okay. Let me say this about Black Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of many bad situations in Black history. But there were so many that I find it interesting that 100 years after the fact, almost, Black people are singling it out as Black Wall Street. I guess that's the thing about Black people can do something with finance and economics.
Yeah.
Well, we can, but we have to start doing it rather than going through this thing of ideating on mythology.
Mm-hmm.
There was a Black Wall Street, but that's not going to do you much good focusing on it because nobody's learning the lessons out of it other than if you aren't prepared, they will kick your butt in this country.
Yeah. I heard that
So
the planes that were used in the bombing of Black Wall Street was owned by black people. That's what people told me.
might have been, but I
That's
mean,
that's interesting.
see, when I grew up, we didn't pay any attention to that because it was one of these, it happened. Don't let it happen again. That's the
Right.
main lesson, not somebody to focus a whole lot of time on instead of dealing with the current situation and figuring out how you're going to get your stuff together right now.
So right now, when you say we need to be studying like the art of war, military science, everything
Yeah.
is warfare in this system. Every type of human activity.
Politics, political science,
Mm-hmm.
philosophy. But see, we get stuck on stupid because all we want to do is study some black writer. But
Mm.
see, truth has no face but truth itself.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't make any difference where you got it from.
Yes, sir.
Classic symbol of revolution is AK-47. Comrade Kalishnikov was not a black African.
Mm.
All right. So you're going to reject the Kalishnikov rifle because you want to say white supremacy. I got to deal with nothing but black. And to see, I put it this way. Yeah, read what black folk have to say.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to get the idea in your head that if you want to learn how to do something, learn from somebody who has done it successfully, not somebody who didn't even get close to success.
I hear you. It's
So,
you yeah. I was thinking about what you were just saying. I was thinking about General Bentley Butler. You familiar with him?
somewhat.
He was the two-time Congressional Medal of Honor winner, but he was the guy that they approached back in the 30s, the bankers from Wall Street. They wanted to overthrow the government and replace him, replace Roosevelt with him as president. And he told the press and the Congress back in the 30s what they was doing. But he realized that he was being used as a racketeer for multinational corporations. He thought he was a patriot, but he found out he was being used to cause banana republics around the world so these multinational corporations take control of the country's resources. So he wrote a lot of stuff about that back in the day. I always say you got to study the 30s too, because the 30s, you had a lot of radical things going on in the 30s
Yeah,
as
well,
well.
you did. But let me just say this. I think the most profitable period of time that blacks can focus on if they don't want to do the here and now is the end of the Civil War and
Yeah.
Reconstruction,
Mm-hmm.
the 1940s when those brothers got out of World War II, and the 60s, late mid 60s.
Mm. So that's homework. I hope people listen and get their homework assignment. They do it. So, Judge, you got anything else you want to add? I want to thank you
No,
once
I
again.
got out of here. I got a few things I got to do. Um, but brother's always nice talking to you.
Yeah, I always say likewise. It's good to see you, man. It's like you getting good. You hanging in there strong, Judge.
I'm hanging in there, going to the range on a regular basis, starting
All
to
right.
proficient.
Are you ready for revolution? As Stokely was, are you ready for revolution?
Well, I don't know. I can't run anymore too fast, so
Well,
I
you,
guess
you
I'll
can shoot.
stand. I'll cover while everybody else gets away.
Well, you can shoot though, right? You can shoot. You got.
Oh, I can do that.
Hey, that's better than nothing. Well, thank you, Judge, and I want to say happy birthday, early birthday wishes. I want to
Well,
make
yeah,
sure I catch
brother,
it.
I appreciate it. Keep
Yeah,
on.
you're a good man, man. I really appreciate you. I'm glad that you're here with us still, offering us wisdom. I mean, you called it several years ago with all this agenda stuff. And I hope people are catching up now and listening. And I think people are becoming more aware now. That's what gives me hope. A lot of things that people are becoming more aware.
See,
Black
they
people,
want to suppress somebody like me so I don't teach somebody like you and
yes, sir.
suppress you so you don't get a following.
Yes,
They'll
sir.
take Charlottes and Sissy like Don Lemon or these clowns on Breakfast Club
I call
or
them the
Eddie
pastry
Bobby,
club, girl.
James Brown boyfriend, Al Sharpton.
Yes, sir.
They'll push them because they advance the agenda. But you keep on doing what you're doing, and I'm out of here.
Listen,
Uh, Happy 4th of July, or at least let's put it this way, a well-focused 4th of July. Keep breathing, wash your hands, stay masked up, act sensible, and hopefully next year you'll still be around.
I
And
know
this
that's right.
one way of looking at today. The good news, you didn't catch something 2 weeks ago that's keeping you from breathing right now. The bad news, you may have just been exposed to something that'll keep you from breathing 2 weeks from now.
Oh man.
All
Yes,
right.
sir. Balance. Yin and yang. We love you madly, Judge. Take care. God bless.
Take it easy. I'm out of
Yes,
here.
sir. And that does it, folks. In the words of Great Duke Ellington, we love you madly. Keep on producing and pushing. One love.
Hey, everybody, this is Brother Ron. I am asking you all to do me a big favor. Think about supporting the We All Be movement. Your donation is tax deductible. The We All Be Group Incorporated is a recognized 501c3. And I'm just asking you all because I want to keep on bringing y'all quality work through the way that I know how to do best. And I'm going to sing my praises and toot my horn. A lot of y'all were not hip to Dick Gregory until Brother Ron brought him on the We All Be platform, until that Django review we did. Y'all seen another side of Judge Joe Brown, and Judge Joe Brown's message has been amplified. But it was We All Be that brought Judge Joe Brown to y'all back in 2014. And so many others. And we covered so many things. So help us out so we can help you all. Peace.